Alright, this is a video that's going to help you change any single percent that you may have and turn it into a decimal. And it just so happens if you're able to change it to a percent to a decimal, you already know how to change a decimal to a fraction by looking at the different place values that might be to the right of the decimal. So let's start off with any percentage. Whenever you're giving a percent, you have to know that you'll always be given a number that is 100 or less. Okay, you cannot have more than 100% within any of these problems. So the first problem I'll give you is this one. Let's say I have 50%, which is a little bit more than 1/2. Let's change this to a decimal. The way you would do this is every single time you have a percent sign and you want to change it to a decimal, all you have to do is move your percent sign 2 place values to the left and turn it into a decimal. This is what I mean. Here is my percent sign. I know I have a 7 in the ones place, and I know I have a 5 in the tens place. There are 2 place values here. You have to take your percent sign and move it 2 place values to the left. Okay? And when I do that, I can erase my percent sign and I can rewrite it as a decimal. I just moved over 2 place values, and this is my answer, which is the same thing as 0.57 or 57 hundredths. Alright, let's try a different one. Let's say I gave you 31%. Once again, in order to get a percent to a decimal, you want to move 2 place values to the left. So I know that I have a 1 in the ones place and a 3 in the tens place. Let's take our percent and let's move it over 1, 2 place values to the left. I'm going to erase my percent sign, and I am then going to turn it into a decimal. And I know that I just changed this percent to 0.31 or 31 hundredths. Now, because I have this in decimal form, you automatically know, because of what we learned, this is the tenths place value, this is the hundredths place value. I know this is the same thing as writing 31 over 100 or 31 hundredths. Alright, let's go ahead and erase this and let's try a different example. Let's say I gave you a percent with only one whole number, and maybe that number was 9, and I have 9%. Once again, you still have to follow this rule of taking your percent and moving it 2 place values over and turning it into a decimal. However, you only have 1 place value here. You have the number 9 in the ones place. So, if I move it over 2 places, right now I can move it over only 1 place. Then, after that, you have to move it over another place value that isn't there, the tens place. And you can change your percent to a decimal. However, this is an empty space. There is nothing here. You have to fill this place value into a 0. I now created my decimal, and I know that 9% is the same as 9 hundredths. And I know this decimal can be written as 9 over 100, which is the same thing as saying 9 hundredths. Okay? Now, what if you want to work backwards and change your decimal to a percent? Well, then you're going to go ahead and do the opposite of what we just talked about. Okay? All you have to do then is you have to go and you have to take your decimal and you're going to change it and move it 2 places to the right, and you're going to do the same thing. So, if you started with, let's say, 2/10, you would have to move this decimal over 2 place values to the right. Now, right now you can only move it over 1 place value, but once again, just like we did with percentages, you move it over another place value, even though there's nothing here, and you add a 0. This time I'll erase my decimal, and I'll draw my percent sign. And I know that this is the same thing as saying 20%. I know that 2/10 is the same as 20%.